Hi, welcome back to Wookiee Multitude. Thank you for joining me again for another theory. Today's theory, what if there was no Padme Skywalker? Without further ado, let's get into it.
We will start our theory halfway through The Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and a princess are in search of a new hyperdrive in Mos Espa when they finally find a parts shop. When they enter the shop, they meet a young Anakin who gladly helps them find what they need, but this time, Anakin doesn't mention the Angels of the Moons to Padme. As the story unfolds, Anakin eventually wins the pod race and destroys the battle droid command ship and becomes the best pilot in the galaxy. Fast forward about 9 years to Attack of the Clones. Qui-Gon is dead and Anakin has been trained by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anakin and Obi-Wan are assigned to protect a senator because of the recent attempt on her life upon arrival to Coruscant. Originally, in Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan accuses Anakin of being nervous in the elevator, which Anakin replies, "I haven't seen her in years." This time, Anakin would be calm and steady-headed. They would still use Padme as bait during the night, go on a crazy speeder chase, and discover Kamino from a poison dart, and Padme would be safe. But in the end, Padme would still be sent to Naboo for safety reasons, and Anakin assigned to protect her. It would be all going smoothly, Anakin and Padme catching up as friends, Obi-Wan being captured on Geonosis. Everything was fine until the dreams. One night, Anakin would get the worst nightmare he had ever had, and since his thoughts weren't clouded by Padme, it was even more intense than in the original trilogy, and it was about his mother. Anakin and Padme would fly to Tatooine as fast as they could and find Anakin's distant family. It was also there that he had learned about his mother's captivity by the Sand People. Anakin would go on a Sand People hunt, angry as ever. Once he found their camp, he would then proceed to murder the entire village, and not just the men, but the women and the children too. Now it's important to remember Anakin had talked and vented to Padme about his feelings in Attack of the Clones. But since he did not feel so comfortable around her or as deeply for her, he would hide them all from her. Fast forward to the Battle of Geonosis, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme are chasing Count Dooku. When Padme falls out of the gunship, Anakin keeps a level-headed and stays on task. Once they get into the room with Count Dooku, Anakin and Obi-Wan will fight Dooku together, easily defeating and capturing Dooku. When the Jedi return to Coruscant, Mace, Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan return to the temple to put away and interrogate Dooku. Padme goes to Naboo, and Anakin, sweet innocent Anakin, goes straight to Chancellor Palpatine to tell his feelings and rage straight to the Chancellor. With Anakin already this close to Palpatine, there would be no battle over Coruscant at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, because Palpatine will have already conditioned Anakin to his bidding and was now waiting for the right moment to execute Order 66. Obi-Wan spent most of his time talking to Dooku, mostly just asking about Obi-Wan's ex-master since Dooku had trained Qui-Gon, but he was also just trying to learn more about the Dark Lord no one could find. The bond Anakin had with Palpatine was obvious, so obvious the Council ordered Obi-Wan to spy on Anakin instead of Anakin spying on Palpatine. Now it's important to remember, Anakin was mentally free. He had no wife or child on the way. Anakin was always predictable up to this point, but now, since he had nothing to lose, it was so much worse. Palpatine's plan was to separate all the Master Jedi from the temple. He sent Mace on a mission to kill Grievous instead of Obi-Wan, and Yoda to Kashyyyk. Now the time was right. Order 66. In a matter of hours, the majority of the Jedi were wiped out. Except for Mace, who had defeated Grievous and flew away in the General's starship, Yoda escaped the way he did in the movies, and finally, Obi-Wan, along with Count Dooku. Both Obi-Wan and Count Dooku had felt a disturbance in the Force before Order 66. And Obi-Wan had released Count Dooku on the terms that he had to help defeat the Dark Lord. All 4 Jedi Masters were en route to meet up at the temple and find out what the heck just happened. Little did they know that Palpatine and Anakin were working together and had been for a long time. Once they got to the temple, they were all in shock, for the entire Jedi population was slaughtered. Masters, knights, younglings, all dead. Mace and Yoda were to confront Palpatine together, while Count Dooku and Obi-Wan made their way to Mustafar to kill Anakin. Now for Obi-Wan and Count Dooku versus Anakin. Obi-Wan had not been practicing his fighting techniques or even seen much battle since he was more interested in Count Dooku. Instead, he studied the more meditative side of the Force and was more into compassion and reasoning. Count Dooku had been imprisoned for several years and was behind physically and mentally. His fighting skill decreased dramatically while he spent much of his time in his cell. Count Dooku was once the best lightsaber duelist in the galaxy, and now he was almost nothing. Anakin, on the other hand, was an actual beast. Palpatine had taught him to use his emotions to win at all costs, and like I said before, he was free. No wife, no kids, nothing. He was a loose cannon. But since he didn't have his wife and kids as backup emotions, he was just a tad bit weaker in the dark side, which drew from anger and emotions to become more powerful. This is a pretty unfair fight if you ask me. I feel like Anakin would just dominate both of them, but let's just get back to it. Anyways, as the battles begin, no side really taking a lead. Obi-Wan and Dooku held their ground, which started to anger Anakin, who thought this would be a well-earned achievement to present to his master. On the other hand, Palpatine struggled badly. He had greatly underestimated the two Jedi Masters' abilities, and as Sidious fought harder, Mace Windu grew more powerful. Yoda, though, was falling short. He was sad and had never really let his emotions show, but now it weighed him down greatly. The mix of Obi-Wan's defense form and Dooku's primarily offense fighting style really overwhelmed Anakin, and he knew he had to kill one of them to be able to defeat the other. So Anakin started directing his attacks towards Dooku, who could not defend as well as he could attack, and soon it became too much for Count Dooku, and over a series of slashes, Dooku was defeated. Now Obi-Wan and Anakin were left. Obi-Wan realized he had spent so much time with Dooku, he didn't even know his Padawan anymore, and was unfamiliar with Anakin's fighting form and his drive. However, the other three masters continued to strike, block, strike, and endless amounts of fighting forms were being used because all the Jedi Masters knew every form and practiced it. When finally there was a break in the fight, Darth Sidious chose this time to taunt Yoda, speaking of the once Jedi Yoda had once taught. Out of pure anger, Yoda jumped at Sidious, and before Mace could do anything, his former master was gone. And Sidious turned to Mace. He was ended as well. He hadn't predicted that Mace would move closer to him while he was striking down Yoda, and Mace Windu struck down Palpatine as well. Obi-Wan and Anakin's fight grew even more intense than either of them imagined. Obi-Wan grew tired, and Anakin couldn't feel anything but rage. Kenobi blocked, and then once he moved to strike, he couldn't. Anakin had froze him with the Force and began to choke him. Anakin said, "Maybe you should have spent more time with your Padawan. Goodbye, Master." And with that, he threw Kenobi into the lake of lava, ending Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now it was only Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker, the two most powerful Force users in the galaxy. Anakin searched and searched, but could not find Mace Windu. This is where we learn that secretly Mace Windu had had an affair with Padme, and now they were both hiding together in the far reaches of the galaxy.
Once again, thank you for joining me at Wookiee Multitude. This was solely my thoughts on what would happen if Padme had never fallen in love with Anakin. Of course, if you have a different opinion, just leave it down in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next theory. Thank you so much.